Well, the story is that Vogue's August edition is out now, and it features an advert from the fashion company Guess. But they have hired Seraphine Valora and the two women behind it to feature an AI model in their advert. And it's the first time that Vogue has featured an AI model, although other editions of Vogue have already done this, and other fashion companies have already used AI models, including H&M. But it has caused quite a lot of controversy and a bit of a backlash from Vogue fans.
I mean, for people who are just listening to this and haven't seen the image, it is indistinguishable, isn't it, from a real-life model? That's the thing that I think's worth saying, Felicity. I looked at this picture and I would not have known that was an AI model were there not this fuss around it.
Yeah, I mean, she is tall, thin, blonde, blue eyes. She's white. She obviously has been trained on algorithms that are based on models on the runway, on the catwalk. So she's obviously based on humans. So yes, she looks very, very lifelike. She looks very real. And actually the only way until all this sort of broke out on the internet of knowing that she was AI was a very tiny little slip of disclaimer on the advert saying made by this company using AI. So it was the sort of very eagle-eyed fans who spotted that it was AI. But like you said, it would have been very hard to have known that she wasn't quite real had you not seen this.
Yes, and this has sparked an enormous debate. We might as well just plunge straight into it, Harriet. I suppose the principal argument for why this is a storm in the teacup is people will say, how is this different from using digitally altered photographs of a real model? You know, you're so tweaked with Photoshop these days. What difference does it make if you just dream someone up?
Yeah, I think that is a very legitimate argument that's being made. I suppose the counter to that argument would be that unlike traditional airbrushing or retouching, which that began with a real person, that did at least begin with a human, and these AI models are sort of digitally created to look perfect. So there's no human flaws or inconsistencies or uniqueness whatsoever. There's also, it's not just about the model, it's also, there wasn't a need for a makeup artist, a lighting director, a photographer that might have been involved behind a shoot that originally featured a human model, even if it was then airbrushed or retouched later on. So there is a difference.
Yeah, but that difference, I suppose, Arion, is an economical advantage to Guess, isn't it? And that's another reason why you might say in its favour for the fashion industry. We don't need to spend so much money anymore.
I think so. And, Seraph and Valora do elsewhere on their website and their Instagram handle, they make a virtue of the fact that you can buy into their services and you can bypass all of the expense of, location scouts and stylists and makeup artists and all of that. And so I think that's the side that personally I feel more sympathetic to, the fact that this is going to involve genuine job losses. The fashion industry had been so problematic for so long in terms of the imagery that it's been putting out there that I don't think this is anything more than one extra step of extrapolation along this long line of trying to create perfection out of sort of quasi-reality. And that's what we've got yet again. But I think, on the other level, the fact that people are going to lose jobs over this, and models as well, that is where maybe my sympathies lie the most.
Yeah, okay. So, right, we've tried to put the perspective of why this might be a good thing. Felicity, the arguments have been pretty intense. And I suppose the major argument actually isn't about job losses. It's women saying, this is what I'm supposed to look up to now, a woman that doesn't even exist. How can I possibly compete with a woman that doesn't exist?
Kind of, but I'm not sure I entirely buy that argument because, as we were just saying, you wouldn't really have known, would you, that it wasn't AI unless you had seen all this outrage. So I think what it is, I think people are more flummoxed and annoyed because I think they feel slightly duped and slightly tricked by finding out that it's not AI, which is the whole uncanny valley phenomenon of something that isn't real coming so close to the boundaries of what is real, and then finding out and feeling sort of tricked and feeling sort of duped. And the other thing I would say is that with unobtainable beauty standards, we already have all the issues and all the problems that come with that. Young girls and women seeing very, very beautiful photoshopped images and immediately wanting to have a cosmetic procedure or, getting a Ozempic or doing all these things you can do to make yourself as skinny and beautiful as possible, which are all really, really bad. We already have that. So it's hard to see why this AI image is going to plunge us into, further misery and further problems. I think it's more to do with the feeling duped that she's not real. And also, maybe it would actually help young girls if they knew it was AI and it was completely unrealistic. Would you not be like, oh, phew, okay, now I don't have to try and look like this person because this person literally doesn't exist?
Harriet, you're nodding.
The other argument about these AI models as well is not only can they reinforce these unrealistic beauty standards, but some people are arguing as well that they can reinforce issues around discrimination and bias. Because although the pair behind this company, they say that they tried to be more inclusive with the AI models, but that users don't engage with posts of women with different skin tones, and there's no response, and they are, ultimately a business. And Dove, the beauty company Dove, in last year, they did this ad campaign designed to show the biases in AI. So this image generator was asked to create the most beautiful woman in the world. And what it produced was obviously a young, thin, white woman with blonde hair and blue eyes. And those images don't look so dissimilar to the images of this guest AI model as well. So there's that argument too.
I found it a curious argument that the people from Serafin Valora said that the images that they've done of AI models of different colours and ethnicities, etc., don't rank on Instagram, because, of course, that's an AI algorithm too, isn't it? It's not just about people pressing like. People don't get shown it because the Instagram algorithm isn't putting it out there. So, I mean, again, they are echoing this issue that is baked in. On the other hand, though, Arion, as Felicity was saying, and you're the father of a daughter, aren't you? Actually, if it were to be clearly labelled as AI, maybe that's better. Maybe it's just like, here's what these clothes could look like in a fantasy world we don't live in because this is an advert. In a way, that's simpler.
I think so. I mean, I struggle in a way to have too much sympathy for an entire industry that is peddling something and has long been peddling something that is obviously problematic for so long. To me, this is just yet another example of a way that unrealistic beauty expectations are being sent to people. It doesn't really matter if the person, inverted commas, in question is real or fake. What we're seeing is something that looks unrealistic and unattainable in a way that is still meant to be aspirational. And I think that's why Vogue's involvement has become such an important aspect of this story. They are the self-styled Supreme Court of fashion. This is meant to be where we see what fashion, like high fashion, represents and is all about. And so that's why it's notionally problematic that AI is in it. But I just think Vogue has been a potential scourge on particularly young people, particularly young women, for so long that this is just another example of it rather than an outlier.
Yeah, incidentally, on that, do any of you happen to know whether Vogue themselves actually knew that this advert contained AI when they agreed to publish it? Because I have noticed that there's been, as far as I can see, no comment about that. And I wonder if Guess just bought, 12 issues of inventory and just happened to fill it with this JPEG before Vogue even noticed. And now people are cancelling their subscriptions as a result.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that either. And I think it is really interesting point, because a lot of the headlines on this have been quite misleading, talking about Vogue models and linking it all to Vogue. And like you said, it's not Vogue editorial. This is an ad space bought by Guess, and it was Guess who commissioned the AI models. So it's hard to know whether... I mean, it would be very surprising, I think, if Vogue had let that slip under the radar and had this huge controversy spring up without its knowledge. But you're right in saying that this is it's a Guess model rather than anything to do with Vogue, really. They're just the magazine that's running it.
Although the one thing that really surprised me when I was reading about this story, actually, I didn't realise that it's not yet a legal requirement to label AI-generated content in the UK. But then I suppose there is also an argument, and I'm not saying that this is one that I would agree with, but there is an argument that given the issues we've outlined around the fashion industry and for models and how devastating it can be for models that are forced into this industry that doesn't allow them to gain any weight or has them taking diet pills or cosmetic procedures, and is incredibly damaging to the young women that come up through that industry, one could make the argument that use of AI models, at least sort of, there's no harm, no foul, right? With something that isn't real, with a girl on the picture that isn't real. She's not been subjected to any harm. Now, that's not an argument that I would make, but it is an argument that I have seen made. It just seems to me to be so out of step with what the public actually want. I mean, a recent poll by magazine app Readly found that almost half of British people want to see a more diverse range of body types represented among public figures, and nearly 2/3 want magazine images to look natural with no retouching or airbrushing. So given that the public seems to be crying out for real, authentic, relatable, diverse imagery, it is interesting to me that they chose to take this decision now in the context, in the moment we find ourselves.
But I'm not sure it's the public who read Vogue, is it? Like, Vogue is a very niche, high fashionista audience who I'm wondering whether actually they do still want this very traditional, very conservative beauty ideal. And I wonder whether more generally we're seeing a return to those kind of norms anyway. Like it made me think of the whole outrage over Sydney Sweeney for American Eagle. So she's just been modeling for the jeans company, and that's caused a massive upset because the tagline is Sydney Sweeney has great genes, which is obviously a play on words between jeans with a G and jeans with a J. And some people have said it's fascist and it's about eugenics because obviously she is another thin, white, blonde, blue-eyed model. But unless American Eagle just wanted the publicity, it seems surprising that, you know, all these big brands still think that what their predominantly female viewers want, who are buying these jeans and reading these magazines, this is the kind of beauty that they're interested in. And except
these companies do make profit. I mean, Guess and American Eagle do. So Felicity, despite what Harriet's saying about, you know, you ask people and they say they want something,
well, exactly.
What they say they want isn't necessarily where they put their money.
Yes, exactly. I think these companies, their number one priority is to make a profit, and either they are using Sydney Sweeney or this AI model who look remarkably similar just to court publicity, or they're using these models because they know that their predominantly female readership is interested in seeing models who look this way. And I'd also question whether it is the responsibility of companies to promote diversity in the first place. They're there to make money, and that's off what their consumers want, right?
Yeah, ultimately, I mean, it is a business and they're all in it to make money. But there is a certain element, and Vogue in particular considers itself to be a dictator of taste as well as catering to taste. There is also an argument that there is a certain, it's not a responsibility of the fashion industry, but it is a reality that they do dictate taste and trend. It's also a reality that the so-called heroin chic look of extreme skinniness from the 90s is very much making a comeback in an era of Ozempic and weight loss injections. Body diversity and positivity is very much on the out, and thin, white, blonde, blue-eyed, not that it was ever really out, is very much in. But it's not true to say that they just cater to what their consumers want. They do also dictate what their consumers want to.
Felicity, do you think Guess will come to regret the backlash that this has provoked, or is this exactly the publicity storm that they wanted?
This is exactly the publicity storm that they wanted. I think they saw this coming a mile off. I think this was what they intended it to be. And I think we will see, I mean, all publicity is good publicity, right? And I think we'll see more AI models coming along before not too long.
Okay. Incidentally, if American Eagle do want more diversity, they should know that I'm wearing American Eagle underwear right now.